It seems Amazon Games Studios are finally listening to the players. They've taken a large amount of the New World feedback on board and started making changes, releasing a long, detailed statement about what they are doing and plan to continue doing. And this is good. It's a really positive step to ensuring the game's future. But is this going to be enough? Can they turn it around now, or is this too little too late for New World? Let's discuss. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes. Over the last couple of weeks, I, along with many other content creators, have pulled no punches, revealing all of the flaws with Amazon's MMORPG New World, in the hopes that Amazon Games Studios will take on board the feedback and fix their game, because we legitimately want to like it. Now, I know that hatred and dislike are very strong emotions and drivers of YouTube views, and a lot of people watch those videos and want me to continue ragging on New World. But it's important, it's vital, that we do recognise the positive changes when they are made, because if we don't recognise them, they have no motivation to keep making them. It's important to be fair, so we do need to look at some positive steps that Amazon Games have taken to improve New World over the last 2 weeks. But have they done enough? Before we dive in, a big thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. More on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. The most positive update we've had recently is a detailed patch list for patch 1.0.5, and then over on the New World forums, they've responded directly to many situations players were concerned about. They've put out a statement on exactly how client-server authority is handled. Then, after the many videos exposing a gold dupe, they disabled all forms of wealth transfer while they looked into that. Then they addressed the botting situation due to how family Steam sharing allowed anyone you shared with to effectively play the game for free. Then they've announced a new public test realm so they can quality check updates before they go live. I know it's easy to just hate something, and many people watching my videos want me to just hurl abuse at New World, but if we demand they communicate better, and then they start doing exactly that, we need to appreciate this is at least a small step in the right direction. It's always annoyed me when someone says, do better to someone else, and then that person actually does better, and instead of acknowledging the improvement, they just constantly refer to the previous not better times. We still have a long way to go, but we have to encourage the behaviour we want to see more of. And this is definitely good for the players. This isn't about revenge. This is about improvement. One of the latest announcements is Amazon now have a test server where they can try patches out before porting them over to the live game. And that sounds great. But what it also means is every patch they've previously put out was tested on the live servers. We are the beta test for anything they want to put into the game. Normally you have a test environment where you trial stuff, or a preview server where players can voluntarily log on and try and break your game before you release it to the live paying public. New World has just released everything to the public, and that's one of the major causes of all of these problems. When the trading gold dupe was discovered, they immediately stopped all forms of wealth transfer between players, and this would seem like a decent first step, but as with any game with multiple connected systems, they didn't account for every eventuality. While the trading was disabled, if a company owned a settlement, they couldn't pay the timed upkeep, and many companies lost a lot of progress as towns and skilling stations downgraded. There was nothing they could do, they just had to watch. But then they discovered the trade freezing had actually created another gold dupe. If a company attempted to start a town upgrade task, then the money wouldn't be taken from the company's coffers because wealth transfer was turned off, so the task wouldn't start. And because the task didn't start, the game refunded the gold. But it never took it in the first place, meaning companies discovered they could just spam start upgrade tasks and build up maxed gold within hours, and the moment gold transfer was turned back on, high-ranking company members just withdrew maxed out gold stacks for themselves. When this news broke, people realised it was the simple solo players who were really suffering. They were now at an even greater disadvantage. They couldn't trade with others, they couldn't use the market house, and they had to watch companies grow infinitely rich. This led to even more players leaving the game, and this has resulted in an even bigger problem. New World is designed as a player-driven player-driven game. You need players to form companies and control the towns, to upgrade them, to invade them and to defend them. The entire game was built on the foundation of you need players to make the adventure happen, and the servers were capped at 2,000 players each because you'd need this many to control the whole map and have a healthy community. But now multiple servers are reporting low player counts. So low, in fact, cities aren't being held or upgraded. Wars aren't happening. The community on many servers is dying because being player-driven doesn't work unless you have a critical mass of players. The forums are calling for emergency server merges because if they don't, you'll end up with a 100 to 200 person server, 3 to 4 companies, and not enough competition to make any PvP events worth it. This extreme player loss has even made the news, being reported on by Forbes in multiple articles. New World started with just under 1 million players, and has consistently lost around 100,000 every week over the last 7 weeks. Now, this kind of shock figure is intended to get an immediate emotional reaction from the reader, but it's actually a bit deeper than that, and we do need to look into it. MMORPGs are often judged on the amount of players they have lost. I said exactly this would happen in a video a couple of weeks ago. You can go back and find out that I did predict this happening. Because if an MMORPG releases to 1 million players but then ends up on 100,000 players, it won't be known as the MMORPG with 100,000 players. It will be known as the game that lost 900,000 players. Now, 100,000 players, and again, this is just a nice easy number to work with, is still a viable player base for an MMORPG. You can definitely run a sustainable, continued MMORPG on a hardcore of 100,000 players. It's been done before. It's a large amount of players. But if millions of people bought the game and the player base falls down to a hardcore of a few 100,000, what that means is multiple hundreds of thousands don't want to carry on playing. It's very easy to get people to try your game. It's very hard to get them to stick around. If millions of people bought your game and only hundreds of thousands decide to stay, what you're actually discovering is millions of people feel they have been missold the game or aren't happy with the quality of the game as it is right now. It's a sign that although your community is stable enough, it's not what people were expecting. I feel Amazon Games Studios are trying to fix their game. They've released a new weapon type, they're addressing concerns, they're actively trying to ban people for duping gold, although that's a separate issue. They're only issuing 24-hour bans in many cases. So the duping hasn't really been punished. A 24-hour ban for ruining an economy and allowing the player to keep the massive advantage they've gained isn't going to make legitimate players feel vindicated. If anything, it's going to make them feel even more persecuted. Many people probably didn't cheat thinking the punishment would be worse, and now there are a lot of players thinking, oh, I probably should have cheated if that's all that was going to happen. My main concern is this isn't enough, because the game was designed to capture the PvP crowd. There isn't enough PvE content to keep a PvE player around. And the PvP is so broken the PvP crowd aren't happy with it. And now there's Lost Ark releasing promising a PvP experience. And many people have asked me, do I think Amazon Games are worried about Lost Ark taking players away from New World? And the answer is Amazon Games don't care because Lost Ark is published by Amazon Games. Whatever happens, Amazon wins. Over the last week, we've seen New World freeze trade in an attempt to stop the gold duping, and in doing so cause another dupe. We've then seen them say they're going to ban cheaters, then hand out some pathetic 24-hour bans which have angered legitimate players even more. We've seen them reveal a roadmap for the future, but the auction town project trick, where you use the storage in the auction house to retain items while finishing the quest, that still works. You can watch my previous video on exactly how to do this. It means you can hand in any project board quest and get the reward without actually losing the items you need to hand in. It's incredibly broken at higher levels because it saves you hundreds of gold. Here I'm just doing it with flint to show you the process, but it works with more valuable stuff. Gaining XP and gold is a joke. Releasing new stuff is great, but you need to fix the fundamentals first. There will be a point of no return for New World, a moment it cannot recover from, and I feel we're dangerously close to it, but the optimist in me says we've not quite reached it yet. There is a chance they could turn this around. If they knuckle down and focus on improving every aspect of the game, starting from the foundation and then adding more content, more enemies, more weapons, more quests, more storyline, more worthwhile activities for PvE or small group PvP. The potential is there, they just need to realise it and stop messing up the fundamentals. But what do you think? Has New World turned a corner and are things finally looking up? Or is this the start of a downward spiral? Have they already crested the event horizon of the game's future? Let me know in the comments below. Another huge thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, and the second channel Josh Strife Plays, where I review old games voted on by you. And as always, have a great day.